Beneath the waves you swim in lies a forgotten city. Our history books are missing entire chapters written on coastlines, now lost to the sea. This video reveals 20 submerged ruins that prove ancient civilizations flourished where oceans now reign, forever changing how you see our shared past. How could a thriving metropolis simply vanish into the deep? And what secrets do these silent stones hold about our ancestors? We are about to journey from legendary sunken kingdoms to prehistoric villages preserved in mud, uncovering tangible evidence that humanity's story is far older and more dramatic than we ever knew. What does it mean for a civilization to be swallowed by the sea? The story of these sunken worlds begins not with a cataclysm, but with a slow, rhythmic breath of the planet itself. To truly grasp why ancient streets now lie beneath fishing nets, we must listen to the deep time heartbeat of Earth. Our coastlines are not permanent. Over vast stretches of time, sea levels rise and fall like a colossal tide, governed by the planet's temperature. During the last great ice age, unimaginable volumes of water were frozen into colossal sheets of ice that blanketed continents. This locked away so much of the world's water that global sea levels plummeted, standing over 120 meters lower than they do today. Picture this: what are now the shallow seas bordering our continents were not seas at all. They were vast, exposed plains, river valleys, and rolling hills, entire landscapes we would scarcely recognize. One of the most famous of these lost worlds is Doggerland, a fertile landmass that once connected Britain to mainland Europe, a region teeming with life and undoubtedly early human communities. Then the world warmed. The great ice sheets began to retreat, melting back into the oceans from which they came. This was not a rapid deluge but a patient, relentless creep. The rising water advanced meter by meter over centuries, gradually claiming the lowlands. Forests became lagoons, hills became islands, and eventually those islands vanished beneath the waves. This process, called marine transgression, gave generations of people time to witness the change, to tell stories about the drowning land, and ultimately to retreat to higher ground. Their abandoned homes, their fishing weirs, and their sacred sites were slowly entombed in silt and seawater. Geologists like Dr. Robert Kopp frame this not as a mysterious tragedy, but as a scientific certainty, a fundamental rhythm of our dynamic planet. Understanding this slow-motion transformation is the master key. It turns legendary sunken cities from myth into historical fact, and it prepares us to visit the first tangible evidence of this lost world, beginning with a discovery that rewrote the map of human prehistory. The silent plains of Doggerland are not the only lost landscape whose story survived. Sometimes, a memory of the sea's advance is preserved not in sediment, but in song and scripture. Our journey into the deep begins with a city that was never truly forgotten because its legend never faded. Off the western coast of India, in the Gulf of Khambhat, the waves whisper the name Dwarka. In ancient Hindu texts like the Mahabharata, Dwarka is described as a magnificent fortified city, the glorious kingdom of the deity Lord Krishna. The epic recounts its fate with dramatic clarity, stating that after Krishna's departure from the world, the great city was consumed by the rising ocean. For centuries, this was understood as profound mythology, a symbolic end to a divine era. Then, in the late 20th century, sonar scans and underwater expeditions revealed something astonishing. Lying on the seabed at depths of around 70 feet were the outlines of a sprawling settlement. Marine archaeologists documented massive stone walls, geometric layouts, pillars, and a wealth of artifacts including pottery, beads, and tools. One of the most compelling finds was a large, L-shaped stone structure that experts believe was an ancient dockyard, a clear indication of a society deeply engaged with the sea. Scientific analysis of materials recovered from the site, including pieces of wood and pottery, have yielded dates that are staggeringly old, suggesting human activity there may stretch back over 9,000 years. This timeline is profound. It places a sophisticated, urban maritime culture on the Indian coastline at a period when much of the world was still in the prehistoric era. The discovery does not prove the literal truth of every mythological detail, but it powerfully validates the core memory held within the tradition. A great coastal city did exist there in the deep past, and it was indeed lost to the waters. The story of Dwarka transforms from pure allegory into what scholars call a geomyth, a folk memory encoding a real geological event, likely the slow, relentless sea level rise that followed the last ice age. This sunken city offers tangible proof that the Indian subcontinent's civilizational story has roots far older than our history books once claimed, and it challenges us to listen more carefully to the oldest stories we have, for they may be the first chapters of our true history. But the legends of the Pacific hold another, even more tangible mystery. Off the coast of Japan's remote Yonaguni Island, the seafloor holds a secret that refuses to be easily categorized. Lying in clear, blue water is a colossal formation of sandstone that looks, for all the world, like the ruins of a forgotten city. Discovered by a diver in the 1980s, the Yonaguni monument immediately divided scientific opinion. What you see are massive, clean-cut terraces dropping in sharp, right-angled steps. There are what appear to be wide processional avenues, towering pillars, and a central platform that some describe as a pyramid. One section strikingly resembles a carved face, while another features a curious, star-shaped indentation. To renowned marine geologist Professor Masaki Kimura, these features are not random. After decades of study, he argues passionately that the site shows clear signs of human tool marks and intelligent design, possibly dating back around 5,000 years. He suggests it could be a ceremonial complex or even evidence for a lost Pacific civilization, a tangible piece of the mythical continent of Mu. Skeptics, however, point to the powerful natural forces at work. The sandstone here is prone to fracturing along straight lines due to seismic activity, and the strong currents could have sculpted the dramatic features over millennia. They see a spectacular but entirely natural geological formation. This debate is the heart of Yonaguni's power. It forces us to look closer and ask harder questions. Whether it is a masterpiece of nature, a site that ancient people modified for their own use, or the genuine ruins of a sunken culture, its existence speaks to a profound truth. During the last ice age, the Ryukyu Islands, including Yonaguni, were not isolated specks. They were connected, forming a much larger landmass that could have supported human communities on what are now submerged plateaus. The monument, in its silent, enigmatic grandeur, stands as a permanent question mark on the seabed. It challenges our timelines and dares us to consider that the human story in the Pacific may have chapters we have only begun to read, written on a shoreline that vanished beneath the waves. The debate over Yonaguni hinges on the line between nature and human craft, but some sunken cities offer no such ambiguity. In the clear, shallow waters off the coast of southern Greece lies a discovery so complete it silenced all doubt. Pavlopetri is not a monument or a myth, it is a city. Dated to over 5,000 years ago, this is the oldest known submerged urban plan on Earth. While other sites were flooded by rising seas, Pavlopetri's fate was shaped by the restless Earth itself. Built on a shoreline that gradually sank due to tectonic subsidence, the city was slowly claimed by the water, a gentle entombment that preserved its bones with astonishing clarity. Here, the seabed is not a jumble of scattered stones but a readable map of ancient life. Marine archaeologists have charted a full urban grid, tracing the outlines of streets that still follow their original course. They have identified the foundations of houses, courtyards where families gathered, and even ceremonial spaces. The layout reveals a sophisticated, organized community, a bustling port town that thrived during the Bronze Age, long before the Parthenon was even a dream. Artifacts recovered from the site, including pottery and tools, tell a story of far-reaching connections, evidence that this was a hub of Mediterranean trade. Its discovery fundamentally changed our understanding of the Mycenaean world, proving that complex maritime societies with advanced urban planning existed a full millennium earlier than previously believed. Pavlopetri is a pristine time capsule, a snapshot of a complete moment suspended beneath the waves. It shows us that the roots of Western civilization are not only found on dry land, but also on coastlines that proved tragically fragile. This silent city reminds us that the foundations of history are often hidden in the quietest places, waiting for the tide of our curiosity to uncover them. The silent map of Pavlopetri shows a city planned by human hands, but the greatest lost landscape of all was shaped by nature alone. Stretching from the east coast of Britain to the Netherlands and Denmark lies a submerged world of staggering scale. This is Doggerland, a name taken from the Dogger Bank, a shallow fishing ground. But long before nets dragged these waters, this was not a sea at all. During the last ice age, with sea levels over 100 meters lower, the North Sea was an immense fertile plain. It was a land of rolling hills, dense forests, meandering rivers, and vast marshes, a continental bridge that allowed people and animals to walk from what is now London to Amsterdam. This was a rich ecosystem, a paradise for hunter-gatherers following herds of reindeer, aurochs, and mammoth. It was home. Then the world warmed and the ice melted. The rising waters did not come as a single wave but as a relentless, centuries-long advance. The forests drowned, the hills became islands, and finally, around 8,000 years ago, the last of Doggerland vanished beneath the waves. It became a ghost, a memory preserved only in sediment and the occasional, startling find. For over a century, fishermen trawling the North Sea have hauled up more than just fish. Their nets have brought to the surface ancient stone tools, finely crafted bone points, and the colossal bones and tusks of mammoths. These are not isolated fragments, but persistent messages from the deep, telling us this seabed was once solid ground walked by our ancestors. Modern science has given this ghost a shape, using seismic mapping data originally gathered for oil and gas exploration. Researchers have painstakingly reconstructed Doggerland's drowned geography. They can now trace the courses of its great rivers like the Channel River, which was a major tributary of the Rhine. They can identify ancient coastlines, lagoons, and even what appear to be lakes that would have been perfect camping grounds for Mesolithic communities. One particularly evocative discovery is a location dubbed Doggerland Stonehenge, a dense concentration of large stones and artifacts that suggests a possible ritual site now lying 50 feet below the surface. Doggerland is not a single ruin, but an entire lost country. It represents the submerged homeland of some of Europe's earliest inhabitants, a world that shaped their migrations, their survival, and their culture before it disappeared forever. Its story reminds us that the maps we take for granted are temporary, and that the footsteps of our deepest past may lie not on any continent, but beneath the cold, dark waters of a familiar sea. Even the grandest human achievements must eventually bow to the sea. On the coast of modern Israel, the waves whisper over the stones of a fallen giant. Caesarea Maritima was not merely a port, it was a statement. Commissioned by Herod the Great around 22 years before the Common Era, it was a monumental feat of political ambition and Roman engineering, a deep water harbor carved from a coastline that had none. Herod wanted a gateway to the empire, and he built one from sheer will and innovation. While impressive ruins still stand on land, the true scale of his vision lies beneath the surface. Here, vast sections of the harbor infrastructure, including colossal breakwaters, submerged warehouses, and the foundational remains of a towering lighthouse, rest on the seabed, claimed by a combination of slow tectonic sinking and the patient rise of the Mediterranean. Underwater archaeologists have mapped a sunken cityscape of commerce. They have recovered elegant marble statues that once adorned public squares, toppled columns from grand buildings, and thousands upon thousands of coins, a tangible record of the immense wealth that flowed through this hub. The most remarkable discovery, however, is not a treasure but a recipe. The Roman engineers used a special type of hydraulic concrete that could set underwater, allowing them to build the massive breakwaters directly on the seafloor. This material, a marvel of ancient science, resisted the relentless force of the waves for centuries. Yet, in the end, it was not enough. The very geological instability that the builders overcame in the short term ensured the harbor's long-term fate. The slow subsidence of the land, combined with rising sea levels, gradually overwhelmed even this engineering masterpiece. The sunken port of Caesarea stands as a powerful lesson in scale. It shows that human ingenuity can perform miracles, creating something where nothing existed before, but it also demonstrates that our timelines are not the planets. The ocean, in its patient, immense rhythm, always has the final word, reclaiming even the most defiant symbols of our ambition grain by grain, century by century. The sunken port of Caesarea shows the ocean reclaiming a known empire, but what if the sea holds evidence of an empire we never knew existed? Just off the western coast of India, in the same Gulf of Khambhat that whispers of Dwarka, a deeper and more controversial mystery lies on the dark seafloor. In 2001, during a routine environmental survey, scientists were stunned by their sonar readings. At a depth of over 120 feet, the scans revealed not random debris but stark, colossal geometric shapes. The images showed what appeared to be the outlines of massive step pyramids and the foundations of complex, sprawling buildings, covering an area larger than many modern cities. This was not a single settlement but the ghost of a potential metropolis. Subsequent dredging of the site brought up physical proof that this was no natural formation. From the silty depths came artifacts of a lost society, pottery, carved beads, and tools. Some researchers also reported finding fragments of material that suggested the site was once inhabited, including what were described as possible traces of individuals from that time. These materials, when subjected to carbon dating, yielded a date that sent shockwaves through the historical community, around 9,500 years before the present. If this date holds, it is a revolutionary claim. It would mean a sophisticated, urban culture with monumental architecture was thriving on the Indian subcontinent millennia before the great civilizations of Mesopotamia and the Indus Valley arose. This timeline challenges the very bedrock of our understanding about where and when human civilization began. Naturally, such an extraordinary claim has met with intense scrutiny and debate. Many archaeologists question the dating methods, pointing out that artifacts recovered from a dynamic seabed could have been displaced or contaminated. They argue that without in situ excavation and clearer context, it is premature to rewrite history books. The controversy itself is a crucial part of the scientific process, a necessary dialogue between discovery and verification. Yet, regardless of where one stands on the specific dates, the fundamental implication of the Khambhat structures remains profound. They stand, or rather lie, as undeniable evidence that India's submerged continental shelf holds monumental secrets. The sheer scale and apparent planning of the site suggest a level of social organization and engineering skill that we have not previously attributed to that ancient era in that part of the world. This sunken complex forces us to confront a humbling possibility that chapters of human achievement are not just missing, but are completely unknown, waiting in the silent dark to redefine our origin story. While the scale of Khambhat is staggering, another sunken site offers a quieter, more intimate window into the past. 30 feet beneath the Mediterranean waves, just off the coast of Atlit, Israel, time has stood still for 9,000 years. Here lies Atlit Yam, a Neolithic village so perfectly preserved it feels less like an archaeological site and more like a community that simply stepped away for a moment. This is not a city of kings or a port of empires. It is the home of some of the world's earliest farmers, captured at the very dawn of settled life. The sea did not destroy this place. It gently sealed it in a protective layer of sand and silt, freezing a single chapter of human existence in astonishing detail. You can still see the foundations of their stone houses arranged in a clear plan. You can find their carefully constructed wells, the oldest known submerged wells in the world, which once provided fresh water from springs now flooded with salt water. Most strikingly, there is a ritual site, a semicircle of massive stones standing upright around what appears to be a spring, a sacred space where the community likely gathered. This level of preservation is a gift to archaeologists, offering a direct look at the moment humanity transitioned from wandering to putting down roots. We see evidence of domesticated crops like wheat and barley, and the bones of sheep and goats they raised. These were not nomadic hunters briefly camping by the shore. They were a permanent, sophisticated society that had mastered agriculture and animal husbandry, building a life on what was then a fertile coastal plain. The site also holds deeply personal connections to the people who lived there. In the silent embrace of the seabed, researchers have found the final resting places of individuals from the community. These discoveries, handled with great care and respect, provide profound insights into their health, their daily lives, and even the challenges they faced. The presence of certain skeletal markers suggests this community dealt with the physical strains of early farming and the health realities of their time. The sea that eventually claimed their home also preserved their story with a poignant clarity found nowhere on land. Atlit Yam's quiet submersion tells a universal story of adaptation and change. These early farmers chose this rich coastline to build their future, only to be forced to retreat inland as the waters slowly rose over generations. Their abandoned village is a testament not to a sudden catastrophe, but to a patient, relentless environmental shift that reshaped the human map. It proves that some of our most important cultural leaps, the very birth of farming and settled society, happened on coastlines that no longer exist, in a world we can now only visit by diving into the past. The silent village of Atlit Yam shows us the dawn of settled life, but the sea also swallowed the twilight of empires. For over 1,000 years, the great port of Thonis-Heracleion was considered nothing more than a traveler's tale, a myth mentioned by historians like Herodotus but lost to the waves. Then, in the year 2000, a French archaeologist named Frank Gaudiot, working from a map of ancient trade routes, made a discovery that stunned the world. In the murky waters of Abu Qir Bay near Alexandria, his team's sonar revealed not scattered ruins but an entire city slumbering on the seabed. This was not a gradual drowning. Heracleion was a powerhouse, the mandatory gateway to Egypt for all Greek trade, a bustling metropolis where cultures and wealth converged. Its end came suddenly, likely in the 8th century, when a perfect storm of environmental pressures culminated in disaster. The land itself was slowly sinking, sea levels were inching higher, and then, researchers believe, a powerful earthquake struck. The unstable, waterlogged sediments beneath the city liquefied, causing entire districts to slide into the Mediterranean almost in an instant. What remains is a breathtaking underwater museum, a snapshot of a city in its prime, frozen at the moment of its descent. Divers glide past 16-foot-tall statues of a pharaoh and a queen, carved from red granite, their serene faces gazing eternally into the blue. They find the ruins of a grand temple dedicated to the god Ammon, its massive stone blocks toppled like a child's toys. The seabed is littered with the artifacts of daily and divine life, gold coins, delicate jewelry, and the preserved wrecks of ceremonial barges that once carried statues in festival processions. But perhaps the most significant find was not made of gold or stone, but of words. The discovery of the Decree of Size, a massive black slab inscribed in both ancient Egyptian and Greek, was a landmark moment for scholars. This stele helped unravel the city's dual identity, proving that Thonis, its Egyptian name, and Heracleion, its Greek name, were one and the same. It confirmed this was the crucial cultural and economic bridge between two great civilizations. Heracleion's story is a profound reminder of fragility. It shows that even the most vital hubs of human connection, cities that shaped the flow of history and wealth, are not immune to the planet's shifting foundations. Its rediscovery gives us back a lost chapter, not of a beginning or an end, but of a vibrant, cosmopolitan center whose echoes still ripple up from the sandy deep. The cold, dark waters of the Baltic Sea hold more than shipwrecks and lost cargo. They cradle entire ancient landscapes, preserved with a clarity that defies time. Across its basin, from the coasts of Germany to Denmark and Sweden, the seabed is not barren. It is a submerged museum of the Mesolithic world, a forested valley that vanished beneath the waves over 10,000 years ago. The Baltic's unique conditions, with its cold temperature, low salt content, and oxygen-poor depths, have acted as a perfect preservative, preventing wood and organic material from rotting away. Divers here do not just find scattered stones, they encounter the very fabric of a lost environment. They glide over fields of intact tree stumps, their roots still gripping the ancient soil, a ghost forest standing silent vigil on the seafloor. Among these drowned trees, the evidence of human life is startlingly direct. There are the carefully placed stones of hunting blinds, used by ancient hunters to ambush game. There are tool fabrication sites, where flakes of flint litter the ground as if the craftsman just stepped away. Piles of animal bones tell silent stories of successful hunts and community meals. One of the most remarkable sites is known as Steinzeit, or Stone Age, located in Germany's Wismar Bay. Here, the sea has preserved intricate wooden fish traps, ingenious woven constructions that once sat in streams and shallows, harvesting food from the water. Alongside them lie wooden tools and weapons, their shapes unmistakably crafted by human hands. This is not the ruins of a city, but the living footprint of a culture. These discoveries prove conclusively that the entire Baltic basin was once a vast, dry, and fertile valley, a northern paradise of forests and rivers teeming with life. It was home to communities of hunter-gatherers who followed the seasons and the herds, building their temporary camps and leaving behind the subtle traces of their passage. The pristine state of these sites offers a window into daily subsistence unlike any found on dry land, where such organic materials would have vanished millennia ago. We see not just where they lived, but how they lived, from the traps they set to the tools they carved. This lost Arctic coastline, now a busy shipping lane, reminds us that human history is written not only in grand monuments, but in the quiet, practical artifacts of survival, perfectly frozen in the cold embrace of a forgotten sea. The Baltic's ghost forests speak of a hunter's world, but the Mediterranean holds evidence of a more deliberate hand. Off the sun-drenched coast of southern Italy, in the clear, shallow waters of the Gulf of Taranto, the seabed tells a story of stones. Near the town of Torre Santa Sabina, divers and researchers have mapped a mysterious line of colossal blocks, each weighing several tons. These are not random boulders scattered by the tides. They are worked megaliths, stones deliberately shaped and placed by human hands, now lying in silent formation beneath the waves. They stretch across the sandy bottom, creating what looks unmistakably like a long, submerged wall or an ancient jetty, a structure of clear intention and immense effort. The purpose of this sunken architecture is a captivating puzzle. One compelling theory sees it as the foundation of a prehistoric port facility, a breakwater constructed during the Bronze Age to shelter the boats of a coastal community when the shoreline was farther out. Another possibility is that it formed part of an enormous, sophisticated fish trap, a permanent stone installation designed to channel and catch marine life with the changing tides. There is also the haunting suggestion that these megaliths might mark the ceremonial or defensive boundary of a Neolithic settlement, a place now completely lost with only its outermost stone skeleton remaining. The debate itself is revealing. It shows that our ancestors were not merely living on the coast, they were actively engineering it, reshaping their environment to suit their needs for food, safety, and commerce. What is beyond debate is the profound implication of their presence. These submerged stones are a direct physical record of a coastline that no longer exists. They were placed on dry land or in very shallow water at a time when global sea levels were significantly lower. Their current position, fully submerged in the Ionian Sea, is a permanent watermark, a fixed point proving exactly where the ancient shore once lay. This single site transforms our understanding of Italy's deep history. It moves the story of sophisticated maritime culture and large-scale stone construction in this region back by thousands of years, long before the rise of Greek colonies or the Roman Republic. The Gulf of Taranto was not an empty prelude to classical history. It was a busy, actively managed landscape. Each massive block is a silent testament to a forgotten community that looked out at a different sea, built with a vision for their future, and left behind a cryptic message in stone, now waiting for the tide of our curiosity to give it meaning once more. Sometimes the sea does not claim a city, we give it to the water ourselves. Deep within the emerald expanse of Qingdao Lake in China lies a secret of staggering beauty, a place where history did not drown by accident but by design. This is Shicheng, the Lion City. For nearly 6 centuries, it stood as a masterpiece of late imperial Chinese architecture, a bustling county seat adorned with ornate stone archways, grand temples with sweeping roofs, and intricate private homes carved with dragons and phoenixes. Its story, however, took a dramatic turn in the mid-20th century. In the name of progress and power, literally, the valley was chosen as the site for a new hydroelectric dam. The decision was made, the river was diverted, and the waters of the Xinan River began to rise. Slowly and deliberately, the magnificent Lion City was flooded, vanishing beneath the new reservoir's surface to a depth of over 130 feet. What was lost to the people of the region, however, was gifted to the future in an unexpected way. The very water that submerged Shicheng became its perfect preservative. Shielded from wind, sun, and the wear of modern life in the cold, calm freshwater, the city did not crumble. It entered a state of suspended animation. Today, divers who descend into the lake's clear depths are met with a scene of surreal tranquility. They swim through silent, cobbled streets flanked by walls still standing tall. They glide past stone archways so detailed you can trace the carvings with your hand, and peer into the windows of houses where light filters through the water in ethereal beams. The most striking features are the guardian lions and mythological beasts carved into the pillars and gates, their stone faces watching over a kingdom of fish and silence. While Shicheng is not ancient in the sense of prehistoric ruins, its modern fate makes it one of the most powerful analogies on our list. It shows with perfect, heartbreaking clarity the process that took millennia for nature to accomplish at sites like Doggerland, condensed into a single human lifetime. Here, we witness exactly how water reclaims a landscape, preserving it even as it removes it from our world. The city stands as a profound, tangible reminder of the trade-offs societies make. It represents the immense cost of modern development, a vibrant cultural heart sacrificed for the energy needs of a growing nation. Yet, in its silent, aqueous museum, it also speaks to the enduring legacy of human artistry and the unexpected ways our past can be saved even as it is surrendered. Shicheng forces us to ask a difficult question, not about ancient coastlines but about our own values. What are we willing to submerge, and what do we hope will remain preserved in the quiet deep, waiting for future generations to rediscover and remember? Far from the ocean's salt, a hidden coastline lies beneath fresh water. In the deep, cold expanse of Lake Michigan, a routine sonar survey for shipwrecks revealed something that should not have been there. Resting on the lakebed over 40 feet down were a series of large, deliberate stone formations. One structure in particular captured immediate attention, a long, straight line of stones resembling a primitive road or wall. Nearby, researchers documented what appeared to be a circle of stacked stones, a cairn-like formation evoking the ritualistic patterns of ancient cultures across the globe. But the most startling and debated feature was a single, large stone bearing a series of grooves. To some observers, these grooves formed the crude but recognizable outline of a mastodon, a prehistoric creature that vanished from North America over 10,000 years ago. The implications of this discovery are profound and deeply controversial. If these stones were arranged by human hands, and if that carving is genuine, it rewrites the timeline of human activity in the heart of the continent. It suggests that Paleo-Indian peoples not only hunted in this region, but established a presence on what was then a dry shoreline of a much smaller lake, leaving behind markers of their world. During the last ice age, the Great Lakes Basin was a dramatically different place. Vast sheets of ice locked away immense volumes of water, causing lake levels to be hundreds of feet lower than they are today. What is now the deep, open water of Lake Michigan was once exposed land, a tundra-like landscape dotted with glacial meltwater pools. This was prime hunting ground for megafauna like the mastodon and the people who followed them. The stone structures, if authentic, could have served as hunting blinds, ceremonial sites, or navigational cairns along a forgotten coast. The scientific community remains rightly cautious, emphasizing the need for rigorous, peer-reviewed study. Natural glacial deposition can create surprisingly geometric rock patterns, and pareidolia, the human tendency to see familiar shapes in random patterns, could explain the mastodon-like carving. Yet the possibility itself is transformative. It challenges the entrenched idea that significant prehistoric ruins are the exclusive domain of oceans or ancient deserts. It forces archaeologists to look inland, to the submerged shorelines of the world's great freshwater lakes, and consider that the first maps of North America were not drawn on parchment, but laid in stone on landscapes now drowned by glacial melt. This mysterious site, still shrouded in the dark waters of Lake Michigan, represents a frontier. It is a whisper from a time when the interior of a continent had its own lost coasts, waiting for their stories to be lifted back into the light. The debate over Lake Michigan stones reminds us that lost coastlines are not confined to any single ocean. A body of water with its own legendary flood story holds tangible evidence of a drowned world. The Black Sea's dark, deep waters are famously anoxic, devoid of oxygen below a certain depth, a condition that can preserve organic material for millennia. This unique environment has long fueled speculation, most notably the Black Sea deluge hypothesis. This theory suggests that around 7,600 years ago, rising global sea levels caused the Mediterranean to catastrophically breach the natural dam of the Bosporus Strait, violently flooding the much lower freshwater lake that was the ancient Black Sea basin. While the scale and speed of this event remain a topic of intense scientific debate, what is not in question is the sea's submerged past. sonar mapping, and underwater archaeology have revealed a lost landscape of stunning clarity. Off the coasts of modern Bulgaria and Turkey, researchers have charted the sunken river valleys and former beaches of a much smaller freshwater lake. These are not just geological features, they are the drowned geography of a habitable world. On these submerged banks and deltas, divers have recovered the physical proof of human life, pottery shards, stone tools, and the remnants of early structures. These artifacts date to a time when the water level was over 100 meters lower, when the basin's edges were lush, exposed coastlines teeming with life. This evidence points to a gradual process, not necessarily a single biblical deluge. As the global oceans rose with the melting glaciers, the Mediterranean's waters began to slowly but persistently spill over the Bosporus sill. This initiated a relentless, centuries-long transgression that steadily filled the Black Sea basin, converting its sprawling, fertile coastlines into a deepening marine abyss. Neolithic communities living along those ancient shores would have witnessed their world slowly shrinking, season by season, generation by generation. They would have been forced to abandon their fishing camps and riverside settlements, retreating to higher ground as the water patiently claimed their homes. The anoxic depths that followed then acted as a perfect preservative, sealing those abandoned sites in a dark, oxygen-free tomb. The sunken villages of the Black Sea provide a crucial physical record of human expansion. They show that following the retreat of the ice sheets, people moved into and thrived in this hospitable basin, establishing some of the earliest farming and fishing communities in the region. Their silent ruins, now resting in the deep, cold darkness, are not proof of a sudden, angry flood, but of a patient, inevitable drowning. They mark the lost frontiers of Neolithic exploration, coastlines that offered a home for centuries before disappearing beneath a rising blue horizon, leaving only their artifacts to whisper of the world that was. Scattered across the dark floor of the Gulf of Khambhat, they look like a giant's forgotten collection of pots. Hundreds of large, stone jar-like objects, some several meters across, lie in silent disarray on the seabed. This is not a natural formation. Their shapes are too regular, their presence too deliberate. To the archaeologists who first documented them, the immediate, haunting comparison was to the plain of jars in Laos, that enigmatic highland site where thousands of massive stone urns dot the landscape. But here, the jars are not on a misty plateau, they are submerged, resting in the quiet depths of an Indian Gulf. Their underwater location is the first and most important clue to their story. These objects were placed on dry land. Their current position beneath the waves is a direct result of the same relentless sea level rise that claimed the nearby structures of Dwarka and the potential metropolis we discussed earlier. This suggests they come from a time when the Gulf of Khambhat was not a gulf at all, but likely a dry river valley or an inland freshwater lake, a landscape that vanished as the ocean reclaimed the continental shelf. Their purpose, however, remains a captivating mystery. Were they colossal storage vessels for grain or water, serving a community that lived along that ancient shoreline? Could they have functioned as ceremonial urns, holding items of great importance or serving as memorials for individuals from a lost society? Perhaps they formed part of a vast ritual complex, arranged in a pattern we can no longer discern from the scattered tableau on the seafloor. The complete absence of any historical record or cultural memory attached to them is what makes them so profoundly significant. They point to a culture, a set of practices, and a people that have left no other trace we yet recognize. Each jar is a question carved in stone. Their sheer size speaks to a community with the manpower, organization, and motivation to undertake a monumental project, yet we do not know their names, their language, or their beliefs. This site underscores a humbling reality in the search for sunken history. The list of unexplained coastal artifacts is still growing. Every new sonar scan, every dive in these shallow seas, has the potential to add another piece to the puzzle. The submerged jars of Khambhat are not just isolated curiosities, they are evidence of a pattern. They tell us that the now drowned coastlines of the world were not empty frontiers, but were actively used, modified, and imbued with meaning by our ancestors. Each discovery, whether a sunken city or a field of silent stone jars, adds another voice to the chorus from the deep, reminding us that humanity's early relationship with water was not one of fear, but of intimate connection, a connection that ended only when the water itself decided to rise and claim the stage. The silent stone jars of Khambhat rest in profound mystery, but some sunken cities offer their history in the clear, shallow light of day. Just off the northeastern coast of Crete, the ancient city of Olous invites a different kind of encounter. Here, the past is not hidden in dark, deep water, but visible through a shimmering turquoise lens. Once a powerful Dorian port and a formidable rival to the legendary Knossos, Olous now rests partially submerged in the calm embrace of the Gulf of Metropolis. From the surface, you can see the ghostly outlines of its former grandeur, sections of sturdy city walls, the geometric foundations of buildings, and even stretches of a paved Roman road disappearing into the sandy bottom. This is not a city lost to a distant, global sea level rise, but one claimed by the restless earth beneath it. The primary force behind its submersion was local tectonic sinking, a gradual settling of the land itself that allowed the Mediterranean to slowly claim its streets and squares. This combination of forces, the planet's crust shifting and the global ocean inching higher, created the hauntingly beautiful scene we see today. What makes Olous truly special is its accessibility. Unlike sites requiring complex expeditions, this sunken city is a place where history meets the present in a deeply personal way. With just a snorkel and mask, anyone can float above its ancient stones, tracing the lines of walls where merchants once bargained and families made their homes. It transforms an archaeological site into a living museum without walls, a tangible, swimmable link to a world that existed over 2,000 years ago. This visibility serves a powerful purpose. Olous acts as a perfect, clear-scale model of the processes we have been exploring. It demonstrates with elegant simplicity how seismic activity, working in concert with the patient rise of the sea, has continually reshaped the Mediterranean coastline. It shows us that the map of the ancient world was not static, but fluid, with thriving urban centers sometimes becoming casualties of the very geology that supported them. In its sunken state, Olous blurs the line between land and sea, between a historical site and a natural wonder. It stands as a quiet testament to the fact that the dialogue between human civilization and the moving earth is ongoing, and that sometimes the most compelling chapters of our past are waiting just beneath the surface, in waters so clear they offer a window straight through time. The sunken stones of Olous offer a clear window into a single city's fate, but to comprehend a truly continental loss, we must look to the warm seas of Southeast Asia. Beneath the turquoise waves of the Java and South China Seas lies not a city but an entire lost world. This is Sunderland, a name for a geography that no longer appears on any map. During the peak of the last ice age, the sea level was so low that the islands of Sumatra, Java, and Borneo were not islands at all. They were connected to each other and to mainland Asia, forming a single, immense peninsula nearly the size of modern India. This was a sprawling, verdant continent of rainforests, river valleys, and savannas, a land bridge of staggering proportions that simply vanished as the ice melted. While we may not yet have found the sunken temples or streets of this drowned realm, the landscape itself is the ultimate artifact. Modern science has allowed us to reconstruct its contours with remarkable precision. Sonar mapping and core samples extracted from the seabed reveal the ghostly signatures of massive river systems that once drained this land. One colossal waterway, which researchers call the North Sunda River, carved a valley now submerged under hundreds of feet of seawater. These ancient rivers were more than geological features. They were the lifelines of life, the highways for animals, and crucially for early human populations. This is where the story of Sunderland transcends geology and touches the deepest roots of human history. For decades, archaeologists have puzzled over the route our ancestors took as they migrated out of Africa and eventually into Australia. The existence of Sunderland provides the most logical answer. This vast, exposed shelf offered a continuous, habitable pathway. Early communities could have followed the coasts and rivers of this now drowned continent, hunting, gathering, and settling along its shores for thousands of years as they journeyed ever southward and eastward. The slow, relentless flooding of Sunderland, which occurred over millennia, was not a single event but a persistent, generation-by-generation reality. As the waters rose, the continent shrank, coastal villages were abandoned, and the land bridge to new islands gradually narrowed and then disappeared, leaving populations isolated on the high ground that would become today's islands. This profound, slow-motion loss of an entire world must have left an indelible mark on the human psyche. Scholars note that flood myths are a central theme in the oral traditions and foundational stories across Southeast Asia, from indigenous tribes in the Philippines to the classical epics of Java. The pervasive theme of a great deluge that forces a restart of the world may well be a cultural memory, a story born from the real experience of watching a familiar, immense landscape be patiently erased by the rising blue horizon. Sunderland's legacy is therefore unique. It may not give us carved statues or stone foundations, but it gives us something grander, the very stage upon which one of humanity's greatest journeys was undertaken. Its submerged hills and valleys are the forgotten highways of our species, proving that some of the most significant ruins are not made of stone, but of lost geography itself, silent proof of the ancient coasts that guided our spread across the earth. The vanished continent of Sunderland reveals a coastline lost to deep time, but some societies built their legacy in a permanent struggle with the water's edge. On the remote island of Pohnpei in the Pacific, the ruins of Nan Madol rise from a mangrove lagoon like a ghostly maze of stone. This city of artificial islets, constructed from colossal basalt logs, is often called the Venice of the Pacific. Its towering walls and canals are a testament to the ambition of the Sodalor dynasty, who ruled here for centuries. Yet the full story of Nan Madol is not confined to the land we can see. Recent underwater surveys have mapped a hidden dimension to this ancient capital, revealing that its engineered landscape continues beneath the surface. Submerged platforms and foundational structures extend from the main islets into the surrounding channels and shallow ocean, lying silent beneath the murky water. These sunken extensions present a fascinating puzzle. They suggest the builders were not just constructing on existing land, but actively reclaiming it from the sea, pushing the boundaries of their city outward into the lagoon. To achieve this, they would have needed a sophisticated understanding of hydrodynamics and marine engineering, managing tides and currents to stabilize their new ground. The alternative explanation is equally telling. The incredible weight of the basalt architecture, built directly upon unstable mangrove mud and coral fill, may have caused sections of the city to gradually sink over time. In this view, the water did not rise to claim the city. The city slowly settled into the water that surrounded it. Both possibilities highlight a profound relationship with the coast. The Sodalor dynasty chose to center their power not on solid high ground, but in a dynamic, challenging interface between land and sea. They invested immense labor to move millions of tons of stone, creating a ceremonial and political heart that was inseparable from the water, using it as both a defensive moat and a spiritual symbol. The underwater components of Nan Madol transform our understanding of this site. They show that even on a small island with limited space, a culture's most ambitious project was a deliberate reshaping of the coastline itself. This was not a people retreating from the ocean, but one actively harnessing it, bending the very border of their world to their will. Their monumental effort speaks to a confidence that they could define the terms of their existence. Yet, the silent stones beneath the lagoon also whisper of an inevitable reconciliation with natural forces. Whether through subsidence or a gradual change in sea level, portions of their grand design ultimately succumbed to the element they sought to command. Nan Madol stands as a powerful stone poem about ambition and adaptation. It proves that the human drive to build and belong is often strongest at the water's edge, even when that edge is always patiently shifting. The folklore of Tamil Nadu holds the memory of a city lost to the waves. For generations, the coastal community near Mahabalipuram spoke of the 7 pagodas, a magnificent group of temples where 6 were claimed by the sea, leaving only the single, magnificent shore temple standing as a lonely sentinel. For centuries, this was understood as a beautiful metaphor, a story explaining the power of the ocean. Then, in December of 2004, the Indian Ocean tsunami delivered a moment of terrifying revelation. As the colossal wave first pulled back, drawing the sea away from the land in a sudden, unnatural retreat, it unveiled a secret. There, exposed on the suddenly dry seabed, were the unmistakable forms of ancient stonework. Witnesses reported seeing a large, elaborately carved lion statue, sections of collapsed walls, and the scattered foundations of structures. The ocean had briefly lifted its veil, confirming in a single, dramatic instant that the legends were rooted in tangible history. In the years that followed, systematic underwater investigations by marine archaeologists began to map the submerged truth. They discovered not just scattered blocks, but entire complexes lying in the shallow waters just off the beach. Sonar images and dives revealed long, straight stretches of what appears to be a massive temple wall, along with heaps of dressed masonry, pillars, and platform foundations. These are not random stones, but the organized ruins of a substantial extension of the ancient Pallava port city, dating to around 700 AD. This discovery does more than validate a local tale. It provides a precise measure of geological change. The submerged temples act as a permanent marker, proving exactly how far the coastline has retreated over the past 13 centuries. A significant portion of this thriving cultural and commercial hub now lies beneath the bay, drowned by the combined forces of gradual sea level rise and possibly local subsidence. Mahabalipuram stands as a profound testament to the endurance of human memory. It shows that oral tradition is not merely myth, but can be a faithful, 1,000-year-old recording of a real geological event, a community's way of preserving the truth of a landscape that slowly vanished before their ancestors' eyes. The sea that took the 6 pagodas could not erase their story, and now their stones are rising to tell it once more. The silent fish traps of the Baltic show us the tools of survival, but on the misty shores of Ireland we find stones placed with a different purpose. The rolling hills of Loughcrew are famous for their Neolithic passage tombs, ancient cairns that crown the landscape. Yet the full story of this sacred complex may be written not just on the hills, but in the vanished geography that surrounded them. Geological studies suggest that thousands of years ago, during the time these tombs were built and used, the Irish Sea reached much further inland. What is now pastoral countryside may have been a dramatic, island-studded coastline. This transforms our understanding of the site. The great cairns, positioned on their high ridges, would have commanded breathtaking views not of green fields, but of shimmering tidal inlets and channels. They were not just monuments to the heavens, but to the meeting of earth and water, places where the community connected with both the cycles of the sky and the rhythms of a now lost sea. This idea moves from theory to tangible proof when we look to Ireland's modern coast. In places like Donegal Bay, divers and researchers have documented more than just natural seabed. Lying beneath the waves are the remnants of human industry, submerged stone walls and intricate arrangements of rocks that bear the clear signature of ancient hands. These are not random. They are identified as likely fish traps, sophisticated stone labyrinths built in intertidal zones to catch fish with the changing tides. Their current location, fully underwater, is a direct and powerful clue. They were built on a shoreline that no longer exists at a time when sea levels were lower and the coast was farther out. These silent stone structures reveal a people deeply attuned to their marine environment. They were not occasional visitors to the coast, but systematic managers of it. Building these traps required communal effort, precise knowledge of local fish behavior, and an intention to return season after season. This shows that Ireland's earliest communities, long before the arrival of farming, were not solely nomadic inland hunters. They were also established coastal dwellers who invested labor in permanent installations to secure food from the sea. Each submerged wall is a watermark of human history, a physical line drawn in stone that marks exactly where an ancient community once lived, worked, and harvested from the boundary between two worlds. They prove that the story of human settlement on these islands begins not just in the interior, but on shores that have long since retreated, leaving only their engineered bones as proof of a forgotten relationship with the water. The silent fish traps of Ireland were built to endure, but some coastlines were destined for a more theatrical descent. Along the sun-drenched shores of the Bay of Naples, the ancient Roman resort of Baiae was the ultimate playground for the empire's elite. Emperors like Nero and Caligula built lavish villas here, drawn by thermal springs and a reputation for hedonistic luxury that became legendary. Yet today, the heart of this dazzling city does not stand on land. It lies beneath the waves, preserved in an underwater archaeological park of breathtaking beauty. The cause was not a rising ocean, but the restless earth itself. Baiae sits within the Campi Flegrei, a vast volcanic caldera. Here, a phenomenon called bradisism occurs, where the land slowly rises and falls due to molten rock and heated fluids shifting deep below the surface. Over centuries, a section of the coastline containing Baiae's most opulent district gradually sank, allowing the Mediterranean to flood its streets and colonnades. This created a unique snapshot, a moment of Roman leisure frozen in time. Divers now glide over intricate floor mosaics that once graced the villas of the powerful, their colorful tesserae still depicting mythological scenes. They swim alongside toppled statues, their marble faces gazing upward through the water, and follow the lines of submerged roads that connected extravagant bath complexes. Unlike cities lost to global sea level rise, Baiae did not retreat from the water came to it, claiming its grandeur in place. This offers a final, poignant lesson in coastal dynamism. Our shorelines are shaped not only by the patient ascent of the seas, but by the sinking of the very ground beneath our feet. The most vibrant centers of human life can become silent, aqueous museums, their stories kept not in libraries, but in the quiet blue halls of a sunken bay. Baiae stands as a stunning reminder that the dialogue between civilization and geology is ongoing, and that sometimes the past chooses the most beautiful possible place to rest. Taken together, these 20 sunken sites form a single, undeniable message. They are not random accidents of history, but connected points on a map of human experience, a global pattern written in stone and silt. This pattern reveals profound truths about who we are and how we have always lived. First and foremost, they confirm a fundamental human instinct: we are drawn to the water's edge. From the very beginning, coastlines offered a unique convergence of resources, abundant food from both sea and land, natural highways for transportation and trade, and the moderating influence of maritime climates. These sunken cities and villages prove that the coast was not merely a frontier, it was the heartland for countless societies, the stage where culture, commerce, and community thrived most vibrantly. Their submerged foundations stand as permanent proof that our oldest homes were built with a view of the horizon. Their collective fate unveils a second, more sobering truth, a universal vulnerability. Each of these places, from the grand Roman port to the humble Neolithic village, ultimately shared the same destiny, not because of war or societal collapse, but because of a changing climate. They were lost to the patient, inexorable rise of the seas following the last ice age, a natural global warming event that reshaped the world. This makes them more than historical curiosities, they are prehistoric precedents. They are a natural archive showing us exactly what happens when the planet warms and the oceans climb. In their silent stones, we see a pattern of adaptation and retreat that span generations, a slow-motion reshaping of the human world. This historical vulnerability now echoes with new urgency in our own era of anthropogenic climate change, reminding us that the dialogue between civilization and the sea is never permanently settled. This submerged archive forces a dramatic expansion of our historical timeline. If so many sophisticated settlements existed on these now drowned continental shelves, then the story of human civilization is undoubtedly older and far more complex than the chapters preserved on dry land. Our terrestrial archaeology only shows us the communities that retreated to higher ground, the survivors. The most ambitious coastal endeavors, the first great experiments in maritime living and urban planning, may still lie beneath the waves waiting to be found. Every new sonar scan has the potential to push back the clock on societal development, suggesting that the cradle of civilization may not have been a single river valley, but a network of lost shores across the globe. Perhaps the most poignant revelation is how these physical ruins connect to the stories we have told for millennia. The pervasive flood myths found in cultures from Mesopotamia to the Pacific Islands, tales of a great deluge sent by the gods, are no longer seen as pure allegory. Sites like Dwarka and the legends of Mahabalipuram show us that these stories are often geomyths, accurate cultural memories passed down through hundreds of generations. They are the oral history of a traumatic geographical event, the slow or sudden loss of a homeland. The ruins provide the physical evidence, while the myths preserve the emotional truth, the collective memory of watching a familiar world vanish beneath the waves. This link between stone and story underscores a deep human need to make sense of profound change, to weave explanation and meaning from the fabric of catastrophe. Ultimately, this collective narrative tells us that the world we know is temporary. Coastlines are not fixed borders, but dynamic, ever-shifting zones of interaction. The map is not a permanent document, but a single frame in a very long film. These 20 sites, scattered across every ocean, form an indelible archive of that truth. They remind us that humanity's story is inextricably linked to the boundary between land and sea, a boundary that has always moved and will always move again. Our ancestors built their greatest achievements on that shifting line, and in their submerged legacy, they left a timeless lesson about resilience, memory, and the profound impermanence of the ground beneath our feet. These silent stones resting on the seabed are more than isolated curiosities. From the legendary depths of Dwarka to the volcanic sinkholes of Bayi, our journey reveals a profound truth. The oceans are not just barriers, but vast libraries of human history, holding chapters of our story we are only beginning to read. Each submerged city, village, and monument is irrefutable evidence that our ancestors inhabited coastlines that have long since vanished. They were not primitive nomads avoiding the water, but sophisticated communities that thrived at the boundary between land and sea, adapting to a changing planet with remarkable ingenuity and resilience. These ruins collectively challenge us to expand our historical imagination, to understand that the map of human achievement is far older and more fluid than the dry land alone can show. They remind us in the most tangible way possible that the Earth's face is ever-changing, shaped by rhythms of ice and heat that operate on a scale beyond human lifetimes. In our own era, as modern sea levels rise anew due to a warming climate, these ancient ruins serve a dual purpose. They are a sobering warning, a natural archive showing the real, lived consequences of a shifting shoreline for countless generations. Yet they are also an inspiration, a testament to the enduring human spirit that builds, adapts, and remembers even in the face of profound change. This legacy invites a powerful reflection. We are left to ponder what stories our own coastal cities might one day tell, and what future civilizations, perhaps equipped with tools we cannot yet envision, might discover of our world in their own explorations of the deep. The dialogue between humanity and the sea continues, written now in steel and glass as it once was in stone. If this exploration into our sunken past has captivated you, there are always more mysteries waiting to be uncovered. Consider subscribing for further journeys into the forgotten corners of history, and we would love to hear your thoughts. Which of these underwater ruins do you find most compelling, and why? Share in the comments below.